Or sorry, one day this will be yours. Very soon. I might need to practice.
Let us know when we're live. Testing the lives.
Okay.
It's live. We're live. Okay. So shall we call the meeting to order at 7:01? We included in your packets the new badges of a revised agenda. Would be terrific. If anybody have any changes to suggest to the revised agenda?
Business going on. The next month's meeting, I'm not gonna be able to make. I don't know if we want to change it or if it needs to be excused.
Anything else? If not, we don't have any, I guess we have a lot of members of the public, but they're on the agenda. So we have two folks who are going to present tonight. First is Bob Lehman.
Yep.
Lehman?
Yep.
He's on the board of the East Greenbush Fire District number 3, I believe.
Yep.
And he's here to talk to us about a new law in New York State that offers an exemption, a partial tax exemption to volunteer fire people in the US. He's going to talk to us about that. And then we're going to have Julia talk to us about our audit of the fiscal year 22. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, perfect, thank you. So I reached out to Lynn about a month ago. My interaction with the library board has been very limited. I am a resident here in East Greenbush. And as Lynn said, I'm currently the chairman of the Board of Fire Commissioners for Fire District number 3. So similar to the Board of Trustees, we on the Fire District side have our own taxing entity. We, set a budget, a taxing levy, collect state or local tax for fire protective services. And there's actually 3 fire districts and 3 fire departments within the town of East Greenbush. There's East Greenbush Fire District number 3, which we're actually located in right now. We have 3 stations that you may be familiar with. Our firehouse over on Phillips Road, Pavilion. We have the station right up here on Luther Road. And then we have another station at the corner of Columbia Turnpike and Hayes Road. There's another department, Clinton Heights Fire Department, their fire district number 1. They kind of cover Hampton Manor, Prospect Heights, those areas off Red Mill Road, 3rd Avenue Extension. Their station is located right on Sherwood Avenue. And then we have West Luther. Their station's out located on the West Luther Road. And they kind of cover, I call the country of East Greenbush, the more rural parts. So everything pretty much from Columbia High School out is where they cover. So what I came to talk to you guys tonight about is that back in December of 2000, last year, Governor Hochul signed a new law which allows for up to a 10% tax exemption for volunteer firefighters. In order for the law to be in effect, each of the taxing entities within the town, and we assumed it was the library, but I think we have some questions to that now, would need to opt in to be able to offer this exemption. I put together this summary, and I don't want to read it because I know where all of our time is very valuable. There's some information here on the background and how we even got here today, and I included a link. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send this or email this to Lynn, and then she can share it with you guys. I did bring a paper copy, but that is the volunteer firefighter recruitment pension task force final report that was issued in December 2022, which kind of led us to where we are with the tax exemption. That was one of the recommendations. I think that one of the biggest impacts is, the goal of this legislation is for recruitment and retention of volunteer firefighters. There's a significant drop of volunteer firefighters. Fortunately, in East Greenbush, we still have a significant number. I know in my department alone, we have 80 active firefighters, but I can't speak for the other departments. But I do know, we're always out every year, different events. You see us advertising. You go into True Value, they have little cards for us to volunteer. We're always looking for new people. Because unfortunately, the younger folks of the town and new residents aren't volunteering like they used to. Everybody's more busy in this day and age. So, the state is looking to, they see the recognize and benefit. There's actually press release yesterday and a publication, I think it was probably the Times Meeting today or yesterday, where, volunteer firefighters save state taxpayers, billions of dollars every year. So at this point, I'm approaching the library to take into consideration of opting into this law, if it's required to. Like I said, I think we're looking into that a little bit more to better understand if the library needs to. I know from the fire district perspective, we had to. One of the biggest things is that there's zero financial impact to the library. There's no decreased money in the budget. The tax levy is just distributed across the other property owners. So, we estimate there's probably about 100 property owners within the town of East Greenbush that would benefit in the 3 departments, as well as burn rescue. I think they're mostly a paid organization now, so they don't have any volunteer EMS workers these days. But any volunteer EMS workers would also be able to be eligible for this exemption. So, like I said, we estimate about 100 properties, and at the end of the day, we consider probably peanuts. It's probably pennies on a dollar of what the impact would be to everybody else. Have we done the math behind it? No, but 100 properties compared to what the actual tax levy is in the town, it's cents. And then I kind of just went into the implementation a little bit here. Like we've been told by our attorney and the attorneys for the Fire Association of the state of New York, that all the local governments and taxing districts have to opt in. And that's why I'm here tonight. There is a 2-part process where the entity would have to hold a public hearing, and then after the public hearing, we pass a resolution to offer the exemption. We've been out soliciting, and thanks to our friend Tom and the Rensselaer County Legislature, they passed the law to date. So we'll be able to get an exemption at the county level. The school district passed their exemption a couple of weeks ago, which we greatly appreciate. Our fire district has passed the exemption as of last Monday night, and I see it's on the town website that they're holding their public hearing on April 12th. I mentioned in here the success of the law is that everybody participates, right? So the more of the different entities that participate, the better benefit the members can get. So there's a part of the members as well. We all have to apply for the exemption. So our members have applied because the school district exemption actually is going to take effect for school taxes this coming fall, for a 10% exemption, which would be a little bit nice. And then for county and town, everything will go in effect for 2025. And as well as the library, just because of the way that the taxing dates work. March 1st was the cutoff for 23 and January 24 tax bills for local property taxes for the town, fire district, library, everything that's on our local property tax bill. That's where we stand. So that's a summary. I have the report around that's floating around, and like I said, link to pass this around if you're interested. I think it's all 13 pages, the recruitment retention report. And then I also included, as was provided to us, an example of the resolutions to be able to further the legislation if the board wishes to. No point of recreating the wheel. They already have the legislation typed out for it, so it's just a matter of kind of filling the blank to be able to pass it. And that's what our partnership did too. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
So you're saying that for us, it was started in 2025.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, I think the taxability, I forget the exact lingo that they use, but the tax year started, they had to be passed by March 1st for 2024. Yeah. Luckily enough, the school district was super in favor of this legislation, and they passed it like the February 27th, like Monday the 27th. So we were in a rush because we had to get all of our members that wanted to participate to get all the paperwork. They have to apply, and then the fire district has to provide them with a certification that goes along with the application to say, yes, this person is a member. So anybody that has less than 20 years has to apply every single year. I'm sorry, I keep looking down here and I forgot to quote from this end. I don't want to be rude. And anybody that has more than 20 years will have a lifetime exemption on their taxes. And there's some other intricacies of the law too, which we would be, we would ask that you include as well as the other districts did. But if there's like a line of duty death, the unmarried spouse of the person who dies in line of duty would forever have that exemption as well. So there's little things, and this is just a start. Hopefully, at the state level, it's nice that Governor Hochul is finally recognizing the volunteer firefighters and all the state, and recognizing that we do have a problem with volunteer firefighters in the state of New York. And hopefully, this is just, like I said, a start to be able to create more programs to booster our roles and have more people here because I think the town of East Greenbush has got, what are we, between 16 and 17,000, and I think we have maybe between all three departments probably about 150 members. So it's just a small sliver percentage of everybody that lives here. But we had all those emergencies through the town 24/7, 365. So.
And you said that Bruin.
Bruin, they may have a few volunteers, but generally I think they're more of a organization these days. Unfortunately, EMS is just, it's such demand. The time of calls for an EMS call compared to a fire call. Some of our calls, we get up in the middle of the night, we can go, we set somebody's fire alarm in the home, we're back in bed in 15 minutes, half hour. An EMS call, generally speaking, you have to go transport to the hospital. We all know what's going on in that world. There's been many, different newspaper articles in that world. So the commitment there is a lot more. And most of the ambulance services locally have, transitioned into a paid or a combination type department where they still may have some volunteers, just because of the demand of everything today. It's not the same. It's tough to give up 4 or 5 hours a day for a call.
Now, will your members have to apply once, or do they have to apply for each district?
Just once to the assessor. Yep. So this will all be filtered through our town assessor here. We do have members, and our district actually lies in the town of Schodack as well, and they've passed the legislation as well. So members that our fire district incorporates Schodack Center and East Greenbush. So we overlap towns. Obviously, anybody that lives within our fire district is also within the East Greenbush School District as well. So we don't have multiple. We don't have any folks that are Maple Hill, but we do have the folks that are in East Greenbush. So far, everybody's on board, and our town, I'm sure, is going to pass it. I've been in communication with Supervisor Conway and Councilperson Tina, and it sounds pretty positive. So
you need multiple local entities. I know the school's already done, but if the town approves it and some other entity within the town doesn't,
yep.
that means the whole property tax goes out the window.
No, we would get it for the portion of the taxes that they levy. So if the county did it and the town didn't do it, we'd still get the tax exemption at the county level, but we not really get the town. So then, is it worth it? So members, we also have, it's a $200 income tax credit. So you can only get one or the other. So volunteer firefighters today can take the $200 tax credit, or they can take the property tax credit. So for this year, members had to make a decision pretty quick, where their school taxes are. If they're less than, $2,000, the $200 tax credit is more beneficial for them. But next, in 2025, as we get going with the county, the town, our fire district, the school district, and hopefully the library, although I think the library and our fire district are very close in our levy for our area. It's a little bit, but it just goes, makes a success for everybody. So, yep.
Any other questions for Bob?
Perfect. So if if we, so Lynn, I think we could be in contact. If this is something that the library board has to move on, obviously, some attorneys have to apply to determine if this is actually something we need to do. And if you hold a public hearing, I'd be happy to come back again. If there's any public that does show up, we can talk to them too. So
And when does it need to be accomplished?
at this point, because we've already passed the March 1st deadline, as long as before March 1st of next year. So what we're trying to, get everybody on board, so far everybody's passed. I think the county law goes into effect December 31st technically. They've passed the legislation, but I think the date for the law was December 31st of this coming year, which then will be good for the taxability status for taxes in January, or the tax bill in January 2025. So, yes.
Great, well, our process, we
Great.
will send it back to
Yeah,
the
definitely.
admin committee and we'll.
Perfect. I have my contact information at the bottom too. Feel free to give me a call. Lynn's got my email, and I'll email you, like I said, this summary quick. And then any other questions? Anybody can reach out to me, feel free to ask. So I appreciate you guys having me tonight. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Tuesday nights are drill nights, so I'm actually gonna go to our firehouse. I've been all over the board here. I haven't been home yet, so that'll be
Great job on report to Mike Lance. You did a wonderful
perfect.
job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. Good to meet
I appreciate it. It's nice meeting you all too.
See you again, too.
Thanks for what you guys do for the town. People don't realize it.
Thanks for what you do, really.
And they don't realize that either. Everybody goes to bed at night, and now, like, they wake up and hope the library's there the next day with the lights on and people there, and if they need somebody, they call 911, hopefully somebody shows up.
Yeah, exactly.
We're very
And you guys
fortunate
do?
with
Yeah, really.
I'm kind of fired. Oh, yeah, you did?
Thank you all again. I
Well, thank you.
appreciate
We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Really, thanks for your time.
Perfect, thank you. I appreciate it, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
So I'm gonna refer that to the committee and we'll put it on our agenda for next month.
So that's for when you hear back from the town attorney, is that?
Yeah,
We
we'll
will
still,
assume by then, we won't let it, we'll make a reach out to the town. So that said, now I introduce Olivia, who is going to present our 2022 report.
Thank you.
Bob and Nick.
Yeah.
I neglected to put you on the agenda.
Appreciate
back.
it. Appreciate you having us both today. Jill, do you want us to move for a moment or you want us to follow on up there? It's up to you.
I can follow along.
Okay, perfect. That's fine. We tried to make it simpler by just having a PowerPoint in front of you today, so you don't have to look through the financial statements, or the auditor communication. Those are the two reports that we're here presenting to you today. I know last year we presented later in the year, our goal was to get it done early, and thanks to Jill and everyone else in their staff were able to do that. Here we are. What I'll do is I'll just talk about the auditor communication. There's two auditor communications. One was issued earlier on January 24th. That's the planning communication letter. That basically details your responsibility as an organization. Your fiduciary responsibility is to ensure that you understand the financial reporting process as it relates to an audit. Our responsibility is to audit the numbers, to make sure everything is reasonable and in accordance with the accounting principles that you guys have chosen. The financial statements, we believe, are presented fairly in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting. That's in conformity, similar to generally accepted accounting principles. It's but this way, you're really just looking at cash. It's cash in, cash out, as well as reporting some short-term liabilities that are out there as it relates to the financial statements for the year end. Our audit is to look at things to ensure that everything is reasonable. We can't look at every transaction that's out here. Otherwise, we'd probably be out here a lot longer than what we do. But we use what we call risk assessment. We'll sit down at the beginning of the audit. We'll look at significant risk, if there are any significant risk within the organization. And if we identify any, we will communicate that during our audit process. We did look at the internal controls of the organization and feel that everything is proper within the internal controls. We look at significant audit areas such as cash disbursements, cash receipts, your payroll area, as well as the revenue side of how you're collecting the cash receipts. We feel that everything is, there are no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report to you during the audit process. We began the audit in February 2023. That's where we documented a lot of the internal control processes. And you'll see one of the things we looked at was the testing of net assets as it relates to donor restrictions. And what that really relates to is you get grants. And you have people that give you donations, I think the Friends grant donations and things of that nature. We think that's a significant area within these financial statements. So we spend a specific time looking at those to make sure that those restrictions were met. We release those restrictions. So there's a lot of time spent to ensure that that information is correct. And I know Jill prepares a nice schedule for us to do that as well. Other procedures, we'll do standard procedures related to the assets, really just the cash as well as the fixed assets. We look at the liabilities, which is strictly just the accounts payable that's out there. And then we do analytics based on the revenue and expenses. Why there were significant changes from one year to the next. Does it make sense? And we'll look at some standard documentation to prove or to look at some of the answers that Jill has given us for those audit areas. Various cleanup was done in March of 2023, and then we go through. I'm the one that's actually Nick's out here performing the audit, and I'm the partner involved, but I have another partner back in the office that does like a full review to make sure that we followed the standards, all the standards were proper, and everything was in place, and we had no issues. So we are today. Next slide, we'll talk about is the planning auditor communication as it relates to the final stages of the audit. And that's the report you have in front of you right now. And like I said, it's all summarized in this, so I don't think you need to go to that unless you'd like to. All the policies, they're disclosed within note 2 to the financial statements, the significant accounting policies. We've looked at those accounting policies from 1 year to the next. There were no significant changes to those accounting policies. You did implement a capitalization policy in the current year, but once again, overall, that's not significant to the financial statements. All transactions are recognized in the proper period from 1 year to the next. We look at cutoff to make sure that is done, especially in the accounts payable area for the short-term payables. Accounting estimates, our responsibility is to disclose to you any significant estimates within the financial statements and kind of put you on notice that something could change because they are estimates. And it's our responsibility to make sure that they are reasonable and we don't feel that there are any significant changes that are out there. The largest estimate relates to depreciation, and the estimated depreciation, you got to look at the historically useful lives. Jill worked with the depreciation schedule, it was out there, we reviewed the depreciation schedule and made sure that everything was proper. We don't, all the disclosures within the financial statements we think are neutral, consistent, and clear. There's no sensitive disclosures. You don't have any loan covenants or anything that you have to meet. So I think, we say they're straightforward to us, but for the most part, there's nothing sensitive that I need to discuss with you today. Just difficulties, we did not have any difficulties. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements. This is a good one for you to realize that there were no significant journal entries that were made during the audit process, which is really important for you to understand because you as board or finance committee members, you're looking at that, making decisions on a monthly basis or quarterly basis when you meet. And if there's no changes, it's telling you the information you're getting is accurate. So I think that's a kudos to management for Jill and her department doing a good job to make sure there were no significant adjustments. But I think that's important to highlight this area. We also didn't have any past audit adjustment, meaning we used materiality, like I said, to ensure that everything's reasonably correct. If we come across something in which there was an error, it wasn't material, you could pass on. We didn't have any of those adjustments as well. Disagreements, no disagreements. You'll see management representations. Jill represented to us on March 20th, which is the date that will be within all these reports that she accepted responsibility for the financial statements, meaning that any question we asked or any document we asked for, she provided to us, and she basically signed off that she did that. And there, there was nothing else in regards to the representations to report to you, meaning if you wanted to get out a second opinion in regards to accounting change or something of that nature, there was none during the audit process. Last but not least, I'll just say that we are independent of the organization. We may assist management and if they have questions regarding the annual update document and things of that nature, but nothing that bears to cross our independence that were in your record keeping process, making transactions or reporting the day-to-day entries. We're not involved in that. The most important part is the financial information. You'll see on the financial statements themselves, you have a statement of assets, liability, and net assets, modified cash basis. You'll have a statement of activities, modified cash basis, schedule of functional expense. Those are the primary reports or the core financial statements within the financial statements themselves. I'll start here by saying that our total current assets is $1,355,614, which is basically your cash position at 2022. This year we changed the report. If you notice, it's a little different to put comparative numbers side by side to make it easier to understand, as I know that was a request of the board. Last year you had $1,163,000 cash. We've looked at the bank statements to ensure that everything is properly reported. And really the significant increase in cash relates to operations. You had a surplus or a profit in the current year. And if you have a profit, that's going to generate an increase in cash from 1 year to the next. Next is net property, plant, and equipment. You can see there you got about $2,269,000 compared to $2,327,000. So that's down in the current year. You did have additions, approximately about $70,000, but depreciation is a contract asset, so it reduces the asset balance if it's not as high as the additions in the current year. So once again, that's why the decrease from one year to the next. But your overall total assets went up to about 3.6 million compared to 3.5, which is roughly due to the profit of the organization in the current year. Next slide talks about the liabilities and the net assets. You can see here this year, we included the short-term liabilities. So that's why you see a little increase from one year to the next in the accrued expenses. So we looked at what was paid in January and accrued them back in December as it was a short-term period for the accounts payable. Overall net assets was about 3.6 million compared to 3.5 in the prior year. And once again, net assets are the accumulation of your profit and losses from the inception over time. Also could be like, what is the overall surplus of the organization? And you can see the reason that increases, once again, you had a profit in the current year, and the profit was roughly about 115,000, which we'll see as we move forward. I'll just point one thing out, and I probably should have pointed this out before. You have multiple columns there. One is without donor restrictions, and one is with donor restrictions. So I just want to highlight that what's in that donor restrictions are the grants that you receive, that whether it's from the Friends grants or a state grant that you receive, in which their donor restrictions says you have to satisfy or meet those restrictions before we can release them to the unrestricted section or without donor restriction section. So overall, at the end of the year, you only had $24,000 of restrictions that are out there from one year to the next at the end of the year. Total support and revenue, you can see here in the current year, you got 2,157,000 compared to 2,064,000. The primary increase relates to the tax levy. You did have an increase that you had in the current year related to the tax levy, and that's primarily what the increase is, as well as you had more grants in the current year. I mean, last year, I think you were feeling some of the COVID implications. This year you got more grants from the Friends grants and things of that nature. So that's why the increase from one year to the next. Next slide talks about your expenses. Overall, your total expenses are about 2,041,000 compared to 2,123,000. So you did have a decrease, which I'll talk about in a second. But overall, your change in net assets, which is what we refer to as your profit and loss. That's the not-for-profit term. If you were in a business, you'd see profit and loss there. It's 115,000 compared to last year of a loss of approximately $60,000. Next slide talks about your functional expenses. And this is kind of detail of the expenses itself from one period to the next. You have, once again, I said 2,041,000 of expenses compared to 2,123,000. I'll just highlight, you'll see there's a decrease out there in the salaries and fringe benefits. Last year, you made 2 payments of the pension expense. So that's why the primarily decrease in the current year. You did have future benefits going forward. Books and materials, I think it was some electronic books and things related to UHLS. There was about $8,000 of additional costs there. So that was why there was a significant jump there in the current year. And then also, last but not least, is you'll see facility and maintenance went up. Most of that related to snow plowing, additional cost there in 22 versus 21. You'll probably see it come back in line besides this last storm. But there probably wasn't as much snow plowing in the third year. Next slide, I'll talk about the basically just the revenue growth of the organization. You can see you had a 4% increase in most of the revenue related to the grants once again. But it's a trend you want to see that you're increasing from year to year or staying relatively consistent. So you can see this year you did have that levy increase. That was the increase. Next slide talks about, is an important slide I always like to show not-for-profit organizations, is your program expenditures versus your total expenses. The state of New York or OSC or the comptroller's office, they want to see that you're spending your dollars related to the programmatic mission, because you are a not-for-profit. You can see here, you're about 91 cents of every dollar gets spent related to the programmatic mission. And that's very good. We do a lot of organizations, 990s, and do a lot of financial statement presentations. And I can see most of them are probably around the 89 cents to 90. So I would say you're pretty much ahead of where most organizations are at this point in time, which is a good thing. The flip side of that is how much you're spending on administration, which you can see on the next slide. You can see your administrative costs are about 8.94% compared to 9.3%. So your admin cost is going down. The comptroller's office, probably about 5 years ago, made a mandate out to not-for-profit organizations to mandate that you stay below 15%. It started at 20, and then they wanted to see a transition to be lower than 15%. And you can see here, you're doing a good job of keeping those admin costs down. Sometimes that's tougher on the administrative people in the office, but in theory, that's what they're trying to do, and I think you're doing a good job, because it's good for donors when you're trying to get donations, that they see you're spending more on program versus administrative costs. So good job in that area. The notes to the financial statements, I'm not gonna go into details on this because they really stayed consistent from one year to the next. But if you have any specific questions related to those, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Commitments and contingencies, I'll just highlight to say, we put that note out there because you do receive grants. So they are subject to audit by third-party payers. And we basically put you on risk to say, okay, they are subject to audit, but we're not aware of anything out there that needs to be paid back or has been reported to be paid back at this point in time. Concentrations is just saying that you have a concentration because you're dependent on the tax levy for what your revenues are. But once again, I don't foresee anything changing there as well from one year to the next, but it just puts the reader on notice for those things. Everything else really stayed status quo to the prior year. My last slide, which I'll just basically is summary, and it's important to mention, is there is an opinion within these financial statements. And the opinion is basically the only thing that really belongs to Brian Jamulia. Everything else is basically management representations of what the financial statement should be. It's our responsibility to give an opinion related to the numbers. And it is an unmodified opinion. It's in accordance with the modified cash basis of accounting. It's the best opinion you can get. There are no exceptions to the report, except that it's not in accordance with GAAP. Once again, modified cash basis is an acceptable method in accordance with GAAP. So there are no exceptions that I need to report to you within the opinion itself. It basically says that everything is properly reported in all material respects as of December 31st, 2022. And this year we changed the opinion because we put the summarized totals in there to basically refer to that last year's report to say that that was an unmodified opinion as well, and put the date report in there from the prior year audit. Last, I'll just say once again, just a summary, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report. And bottom line, you had a profit in the current year, 115,000. So I think it's a strong financial statement to present to you today. And I think overall, great audit. Kudos to Jill. Thank you for having everything ready for us, allowing us to get through it in such a short period of time as well. Any questions?
That's well done, thank you, I really appreciate it, like it's really great narrative.
It was really so much easier to see.
Narrative.
Yep.
Any recommendations or anything? you have
No, I
for
think
us, or-
we had some recommendations last year. I think that, Jill implemented those. And like I said, in the past, we've had issues with appreciation. I think we got all that stuff ironed out. I think overall, this was a really quality audit. And I think you have strong internal control process here from what we reviewed and looked at, that I think you got good checks and balances, and that's important for the organization. We did walkthroughs in the key areas, like I said, cash receipts, cash disbursements, and payroll. We feel there are the adequate controls there. So I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you. Now, do we vote to accept the audit now? Is that a motion?
I don't even know detail.
Because I saw it was
It's good
stamped
practice, I
draft.
would say.
So we'll accept the motion to accept the audit.
Since we just received, I mean, we
You do it, that's
received, I'm thinking maybe,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so I will encourage everybody to take a look and we'll put it on the agenda for next month, and at that point, we will.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to me and Nick. I'm happy to work for the board, as well as management, so never hesitate if you have a question you want to reach out to us. All right.
Thank you. We really appreciate it. We really appreciate having this audit in our hands on.
Yep.
Trust me, it's a wonderful feeling.
Totally understand.
After last year,
Yeah.
we have gotten it under our belts. So thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care.
Yep.
So that's with the next one.
Thank you.
And snapping.
Well, I've got another one in.
All right.
We won't wait much.
So for, I thought I remember, do we retain them for 3 years at a time?
I think our, yeah, I'll look it up and bring it to admin, but I believe this is the last year of our
That's what I thought I remembered from a prior meeting, so I would want to make sure that we need to do it in contract.
I believe it's only 3 years, but it probably doesn't.
I think it's 3 years, it might be 4, but it's.
Okay. With that said, I guess we'll move on. Amanda, do you wanna, about the minutes from that February 13th?
I believe it's been a month, so. I'm pretty sure I sent them around to everybody. I've got a couple type of feedback, which is good. But I don't think there are any major changes to the meeting minutes that we need to address. Anybody have any questions on them? Clarification? I guess, just need to make them, I guess I'll move to accept the minutes as I presented them in 10 seconds here.
Okay, so that's like did anybody have any questions, any corrections? Motion to approve the minutes of the February 13th, 2023 library board meeting as presented. All in favor? Unanimous. Well, the vote's not, but it's 6 votes. I guess we should have pointed that out.
You did point it out, so I put it into the notes. My
Excuse tonight.
Okay, then we'll move on. Katie, it's all yours.
Okay, so I hope everyone got a chance to look at the treasurer's report. All of the expenses over 1,000 were listed for the warrant and the off warrant. Noteworthy, we did receive the town of East Greenbush money, and we received Skodak, but it wasn't even in the books yet, as it had just like very fresh just happened. The financials are in good shape. We're 19.7% of the way through the year, and we are at 17% of the expenses. The amounts are listed here, and then another item of note was the budget committee is beginning to form. So the meeting dates are listed, and the other important dates as well, such as the presentation of the draft budget to the board, the public hearing, and then when the community will vote. So we would like to know who would like to join, and my understanding is everyone on the admin committee was interested. Is anyone from the service committee from voice to budget, to be on the budget committee?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to have the whole.
Anyone on the board is welcome.
Because we're on big committees.
Oh.
Yeah, so you learn all, you're on the,
Okay. So we've got a big committee.
I think it
That's-
helps because
that's
the
great.
meetings are set out, I already know when they'll
Or
be.
you want-
Yeah.
It makes it easier to commit.
That was important, that was important to me,
I mean,
because I wasn't able to attend last year, so I wanted to make sure it was laid out, and then when people make the decision for the commitment, yes, I wanna be on it, you know up front, this is what you're getting yourself into, so.
That's
love
when I
that
read
right
that
there.
earlier, yeah, I was like, I can say that I can
Yeah,
do
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
because I know when they are.
Thank you for setting that up. So, yes, we have our budget committee and it will be.
So do you think we're okay in the her room or should I try to, I'll try to look and see if we have space in here to do it in here, because that would be better. We may, a couple of the nights, we may have to, which is numbers anyways, but we can squeeze.
And sometimes, I mean, you know, some people can't make it.
Sure,
yeah. It's better to have everyone involved.
So that's wonderful.
Did anyone have any questions about any of the the report or the purchases or anything like that, or
Yeah,
we're
I just
feeling
had a
good?
question, and it might have been in your report, it might have been in the, I'll ask. The Apple, it mentioned buying iPads, something like that, for $21.50 on the off warrant. Is that, I read different things, like something about how Dell prices had gone up, but this has nothing to do with staff computers.
Apple, no, those are for programming, we use them in story times and different things.
And that was purchased
So they were-
with the Friends grant.
Was it
Right.
purchase of Friends grant?
That's
Yeah,
what
it
I
was.
have in the
And
notes.
we haven't replaced our iPads in at least 5-6 years.
It says right here, friends. Yeah. I just didn't know how they were used as. Any questions?
I had sent some things to Jill, but I think it's just my own need to understand versus questions on.
Questions, I will entertain a motion to accept the off warrant, the amount of $173,511. If anybody want to make that motion?
Counselor.
Any more discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Passes unanimously. Take a warrant. Does anyone wish to make a motion? Authorize the president to sign the warrant?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, so you have the amount is the dates on that, 41,461.19. Dated 3/15/23. Discussion, we can vote, all those in favor?
I have March 13th, that was when Dawn said she closed. And you just said 3/15. Oh, okay.
It's through that date, but it's through the date you have, but the date listed on the actual report, because it's when you, it's the dates that you pull the report are.
And but the bottom line number is identical, 41,461.19.
So is that, okay, all that same March 1st to March 13th?
So what date would I use?
The 15th is what's on the report.
Are you looking at the financials or the off-warrant?
This is the
warrant.
and it says the 15th on it.
The warrant says the 15th on it because that's when we pulled the report. So the date of this report here is March 15th. It doesn't mean it's up and, it is up until then because there were no checks cut on that date.
So what you're saying is because nothing was cut in those 2 days.
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But if it did, probably, what for report
reporting purposes.
If it did, we would want to make sure that what we reported in the minutes was an exact reflection. And it would, the number would be what's on the report.
And honestly, it really doesn't matter because each check is listed individually here. So the report is pulled on this date, you're approving the report that is on this date. So you're fine.
And it's got everything.
It's got every single,
It would be 315. It is 315.
correct. But are you asking, what if they cut a check on March 14th? Is that what you're wondering?
That was my original
And it would
wondering,
be
but
showing
on-
here.
sometimes- Yes, sometimes it is possible that happens, but that report would be cut on the 13th. We recut this report because we found a voided check on there that we had voided afterwards. So we recut it. Okay. So the numbers weren't changed from when you came, but the date was changed.
So the date would be 315. The amount is 41,461.19. Any other discussion?
So just,
Okay.
because I'm with you on this. So your report says through March 13th. Does that mean that are we now saying that it's through March 15th because the report was cut a later date? Is that what that means?
The report was pulled on March 15th, but it means it was through the 13th of checks through the 13th. But the report is
I
dated
mean,
the
it's
15th.
easier, I know from when it's easier if we go, you based it on when you had your meeting.
No, I had the meeting the 15th, but everything closed the 13th, so I based it on the closure.
And so it's easier if you base it on the closure, because then next month, anything.
Exactly when the new start is.
And if otherwise,
So then will my new start next month be March 14th or March 16th?
be March 14th. Because that's the most important, is that anybody would look through and every day of the year should be covered and accounted for
Right.
in your reporting, because it's always a challenge, because if checks aren't cut, sometimes it actually start pushes up, but you're still covering that.
I just don't want to do it wrong.
Oh, you're doing great.
Okay, so I will, are people ready to vote? All those in favor? Okay, of the warrant authorizing the excited. Okay. Any opposed? How about financials?
We're in good financial standing. Like I said, we're 19.7% of the year complete, and we're at 17% of our total expenses, having just received money from both town and from Skodak. It's just, a nice feeling to know it's there. The assets were only 0.2% below the 2022 amount, which is not a significant amount. And then the workers' comp is the same comment as last month, because that's just an alarming number. I just want to call attention. Any questions?
Just have one. I was kind of surprised to see that our fine income was $472. We have no budgeted amount, it's fine free. Is that, you think, just a reflection of a kind of closeout?
Yes, because, we do charge fines still for specialty items. And those are typically $1 a day or $5 a day, depending on what they are in laptops. But most of that is not that money, it's December money that is collected and not deposited until January because of vacations. So we recognize it when it's deposited in the bank.
So we might next year want to put a little bit to reflect the fines we would collect.
Yep, if we're still doing it.
Thanks for the explanation. I thought it was a guilty conscience thing.
Well, I said, well, that's just so we put in an exempt period and we collect more money than usual. Okay, the last one then, my other one is under $500.17 for 101 interest and earnings.
Yeah.
More than our budget for the whole year. I was surprised by that, what it.
Interest rates are just skyrocketed right now.
After a few years, we used to have higher. rates,
Right.
And then they plummeted, so.
They'll drop again.
Okay, any other questions? Or any more information on that?
Got what I've got.
I will entertain a motion to approve the financials for 19.7% of the year completed. Early, second, Amy? Any more discussion? Not, so all those in favor? Opposed? No. Passes unanimous. Committee reports. Charlie, you're reporting. Just listening to you.
I guess just a few updates on the building. We talked, the town approved the backflow project documents, so that comes straight to bidding. Building condition, that's underway. So that's an active process. We talked about staff area reconfiguration. So that sounds exciting for the space out there. On the financials, we covered discussion of QuickBooks and the ongoing, charting of a pathway for financial policies. The audit we covered earlier. Annual report submitted to Hudson. For the budget schedule 2. And then for miscellaneous, kind of still game planning out SCODAC funding. So be good stewards there with the team SCODAC. Nothing new in State County. Decided to not hire an attorney and covered the volunteer firefighter. Essentially discuss that. And so later, our open meetings, looking further into policy modifications for the attendance.
And that will go to service. So
Yeah.
Piece, but I just wanted a sense from the admin committee as to. I have a question on the backflow preventer. I think the last I heard, we were waiting to hear how much it was to know what type of purchase process we had to go through. Did we have that information?
No, I reached out to our engineers again a couple of days ago, and I expect that I'll hear back from them. I also did reach out and confirm with the town because that we will be able to, if we do need to go out to bid, that we can follow that process and not have to do an emergency hire because there is the deadline of April 15th of getting this installed. And they said that it was fine because they've already approved our plans and we're in good shape. So if we do need to go out to bid, we can go out to bid. It will not be an emergency purchase, but the engineers did say that they were gonna price it out for us to give us a sense of, because it's probably right on that cusp of, do we need to get 3 quotes or go out to bid? And if we can avoid going out to bid, it's just a time-intensive process. Prefer not to.
Do we have any sense, like, I mean, what is it? Is it 10,000? Is that?
I can pull up the policy.
Okay. Any questions for Charlie? Services committee. Yes, that's you.
So there's, let me just strategic plans over the others. The MOU did go through. You're going to on their votes. And you get back to us with whatever change would be, what we're gonna get it passed on your side of things from, or in the April meeting. Farmers market, there will not be one this year. At our committee meeting, we talked a little bit about, is there something, do we have a void that we need to fill? And there's no void in terms of the library needing more work. So if they're we batted around a couple ideas, as to, what things might be community oriented that could take the place of the farmers market, but at this point, unless someone has an idea and has a way to develop it without having to put a workload on the library or the Y, for that matter, because it's a collaborative effort. I think this year might just be a thinking year for everyone. The newsletter is going to 3 times a month because of printing. I 3 times a year, yeah, that would be a lot of news.
You've got a lot of
4,000,
that'd be 12,000 a month.
Yeah, you seriously will. So Jill is going to send us new dates for when the deadlines are. I guess that would impact Friends of Rome too, because you folks.
Yeah, we're very little.
Okay. And I guess in terms of news, I mean, the library has so many other outlets in which they report news. The printed copy might just be one of those things that is going the way of the dinosaur at some point, but for now it'll be 3 years. Or 3
times a year.
It was from 3 times.
I know. Once every 3 years. I'll give her the newsletter for you. So next is the strategic planning, and everybody knows that there's been a little bump in the road in terms of timing. Jill has worked out new dates for all the focus group meetings, with perhaps the exception of the 7th graders at this point, but everything else, there's new dates, there's locations, the consultants are on board. And so I believe the communications are going to start going out. And I actually had a question for you, Jill. So the meetings were supposed to start next week. Have the people that were expecting to come to the meetings, have they been notified at all?
Only some of them, so tomorrow that'll start. Everyone will get letters tomorrow and also emails. Now that we have solidified dates, everyone will get emails. And if someone responded yes, and they don't have an email, then we'll call them.
Okay,
We won't wait for a letter,
okay,
but they'll get a follow-up letter if they were invited via letter.
all right. And so phone calls don't need to be made?
I don't think you guys need to do that. I would prefer that you
Oh, this is the.
make phone calls to people who haven't already, to new people.
Okay.
Come in, do we know?
As RSVP.
Yep, so it's all in the team's site. So
Yes.
there's the strategic planning list document is updated. And there's also a calendar document.
Within the meetings.
I was just in it, now there's just a picture of a Pikachu pumpkin. I don't know what happened there.
So with respect to the meetings, we had talked, I don't remember which meeting was that, but we had talked previously that there'd be like there's a meet and greet when the focus groups are coming and the community advisory group is coming. Jill will greet them, and we also thought it would be good to have a board member participating in that greeting. With the new dates and times, we thought it would still be important to offer that up to see if any board members were interested and able to, be a greeter at one or however many might want to attend. But the flip side is that some of the meetings are during the day, so we would need you to look at the teams and identify whether or not you want to come. And you don't have to, I get it. Lynn and I are available to do the meetings, most of them. But I just thought it was important for everybody to have the opportunity if they wanted to. So we have a sign up. Actually, this has the dates and times on it. Jill created a sign up. So we'll circulate it. If you want to just, take a look at it, if there's something, if one of the meetings or more that you are interested in greeting people, that'd be fine. Our meeting, the friends and board are gonna meet together, and I believe that's the 20th.
It's Tuesday, the
Yeah.
25th, from 7:30 to 9.
Yeah. So that might be something that you're gonna be coming that night anyways. Wanted to be as a greeter. The greeting piece, I don't expect, what is it, like a couple minutes. We don't sit in on the focus group meetings. So it really truly is a hello, how are you? My name is, and I'm on board.
So the idea is we'd be here maybe half an hour ahead of time just to
Yes.
mill around with people, and then we'd say hi and goodbye.
Yep, I actually put in here, set up, welcome, or clean up, just kind of what would the roles be and when to come for each. I'm assuming if you're doing the welcome, you would probably either sign up for the setup or the cleanup,
Yeah.
just so that you're gonna be here. Don't feel pressured to do any of these, but this is an opportunity if you would like to represent the board.
Yeah. And you would meet people in the community, so
It's always great.
yeah.
And I know it's in my.
Yeah, mine is.
I mean, there's one that's.
And as a matter of fact, Julian and I communicated too, because the book sale is the day before the focus groups start. Actually, there is a forum that's the day, but so book sale is on a Sunday, and that Monday is when the focus groups here will start. Library is closed that day, so to agree to have the volunteers help us set up for the. No. Yes.
I'll be another one if you want to put me on.
Oh, I'll be there.
You're gonna be there anyway, too.
I know, I'm busy setting, yeah, so.
Yes, just to see. like,
Yes,
I know this is
absolutely, absolutely.
the sign up is on Teams, it's not on paper, right?
This is the sheet of paper, but we can put it on Teams, if
Sure.
that makes sense.
I'll post it to you so
Yeah.
you can update it.
Yeah.
And
So if like something needs to be changed in real time, I think that like if something comes up or something.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And the community, so the community forum will be not at the library, just so you know. There,
Right.
because the book sale, we weren't able to have space at the library, but the Y has generously offered space for us, so we will hold the community forum
Where will
at
it
the
be?
Y. It'll be in the community room. It can hold 40 people. I imagine we're gonna get.
And so they still have to drive past the library.
So they might stop at the book sale.
Right, exactly.
Must be big signs in between.
Well, actually, that would be a really
Good
good
idea.
thing to put at the book
It would be a great thing to put at the book sale.
and say, hey.
Vice versa. Yep.
So the one that says library board, friends board, focus group, Tuesday, April 25th. The board is staying for the whole time for that?
For that one, you're staying for the whole
The
time
whole
and you're
time, okay.
participating.
Right, okay.
Yep.
And then, like, if I can just say community and faith-based, from 4 to 5, if I just welcome, I would just basically be there like 4-ish, just to welcome, and then 3:30-ish, something like that. And then,
Yep, and then
Okay.
you just stay for 5 minutes, basically.
yeah, all right.
And the one other thing I wanted to mention was that the survey was supposed to stop last Friday, but the consultants agreed that we could extend it based upon things that happened with the delay. So that could be an advantage for us, and it also gives us board members more opportunity to introduce the survey to more people in the community. So if there's anybody that you know of, then it's rolling it in.
I'll see what other secondary classrooms I can fit like.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it would be helpful. So,
And I mean, the good news is they finished most all of the key informant interviews. Were you one of the key?
Yeah, it was very
informant
enjoyable, it was good, yeah.
Okay, and said that they have done 9 out of 10 of them.
I think by now they've done 10.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Wow.
Yep, we're all set to go with the new dates. We're only waiting. The switch with the district was a little tricky because there's New York State testing. So often the libraries, so it's just, we're just
Do the
coordinating.
7th graders have testing. So I always thought it was like 3rd and 8th.
3rd through 8th.
See, that's what I know. My kids are so old.
Well,
That was when
Well,
tests.
yeah. What makes it feel better, there's no second grade.
No painting.
So we'll coordinate. It may, hopefully it'll be during Monday or Tuesday, we can fit them in. If we can't, then we'll try to do it at surrounding day. They have, Maxine and Erica have agreed that, you know, if needed, they could come back for another day, for a day trip.
That's great.
And I want to thank Jill and Mary, Jill especially, it just was, what a shock, you know,
Yeah.
like it's you know, medical emergency, we and their staff did so much work, this is tremendous. There are a lot of people that were involved, and I mean, if we look at a silver lining, there are some people who we had talked to who weren't available, who now seem to be available, and a lot of people who were available still are available, so in some ways, it'll make it a bit more robust, and we have, by the way, almost 500 surveys returned so
Oh, good.
far, which I think is quite extraordinary, and it's a
Considering
really nice
200
mix.
only come out to vote.
I know.
Right, yeah, right.
And I mean, it's been a nice mix, I mean, it's a lot of people of my era,
And you say 500 paper surveys or 500?
Oh, surveys.
Oh, total, we've been entering the paper surveys in, so it's an accurate number.
I just dropped about 25 for the week, so.
Oh, good.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
And I think that they said the 700 is.
We're looking for a good 700.
Yeah, so just.
Our work is not done.
We're not done.
Gotta get you
We're
one.
not done. Yeah, okay, we got another.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Okay, do we have a deadline, a new deadline?
Yeah.
20th.
No, it's April 14th.
Wait,
Yes.
Oops, no.
Everything's been updated, but apparently the ones in the meeting were.
That's why I saw that and I was like.
I have that date and all of this information. I'm just looking at this.
Gosh, I did, don't worry.
The chair.
You didn't see this. Grab a Sharpie and just cross it out.
All right, so anybody have any questions or? Requests?
oh, great, we wanna feel good about it.
Yeah, it's really moving along.
Really moving along.
Mhm.
Okay, Director Jill.
Right.
Okay. Before I get started, are there any questions about my report? It was a quick one to get out, so I apologize if there's more typos than usual. So, a couple of highlights, things that weren't in the report that I want to draw your attention to. Library expedition, that's in
Oh,
your
yeah.
packets there, it's coming back.
So great.
April 3rd, library expedition is kicking off. If you haven't had a chance to do it, if you didn't do it in the past, I highly encourage you to do it.
You just give a little overview,
Sure,
'cause
because
like, what is it? Like,
Yep.
just, yeah.
So essentially, it is a pass book, think about it like your passport. And you're gonna go around between all 36 libraries in Upper Hudson Library System. And there will be prizes at certain, after you visit 12, 24, or 36 locations, there are prizes. There's different things, guides for you to do. I included it in your guide there, route guides. So if you're, going into the eastern northern Rensselaer County, there's, a list of which libraries to go to and things to do while you're there. So you're really trying to get to know the libraries and the communities around the libraries too. And we did this before and had, it's an Upper Hudson collaborative, and we had really great feedback. People loved it. And there's actually, recently, we had a team of people who went around and did their own expedition because they loved it so much last time. They were just doing it again. And there will be a big celebration at the very end. Molly is she's representing our library on the committee to put this together, and they've made it even better this time. So I encourage you to go, even if you visited all 36 last time, there will be an extra special prize for you this time.
So if I was from Troy and came to East Greenbush, what would I?
You would bring your passbook up to any library staff member and we will give you a stamp.
Is there, and does each
I think we
library
will
have-
probably be having we have a little area that says library expedition, so you can do it. Every library does it a little bit differently. Some libraries have cutouts where, the smaller libraries especially love it because it's bringing people into the library, and they'll do different things like photo ops and, would love to have everyone come to our library, but people are coming anyway, so, we don't really have the staffing capacity to have one-on-one long conversations with everybody as they come in. So you might find it really enjoyable in the smaller libraries. It's really neat. And it also gives you, it will give you some good ideas as you visit each library, small and large. You'll get all kinds of ideas for things that, why aren't we doing this? Or could we do this? Or what do you think about this? And it'll prompt some good conversation.
It's like the input. Yeah, no, I think it's so like, I think it's really cute. People just, get a car together and do it, it's just like a friends thing, and they just will drive around and, it's really fun.
Okay, something else that you should know about, because you may get asked about this, and it may be important to you as well. Overdrive. If you use Overdrive and you download it through an app, if you haven't transitioned to Libby yet, the Overdrive app is sunsetting on May 1st. So our website has all kinds of information on how to do it. I will tell you that Libby is so much easier than Overdrive. Some people don't like it, but it's easier. It's for sure easier. If you remember the first time you set up Overdrive, if you have been doing it for years and years and years, now it's easy, but you had to go through, 3 or 4 step long process. Libby was download it, put it in your library, barcode, and your PIN, and you're good. It's in there, and you can read anything right on your app. It's super easy. But just so you know, that's happening.
Is that a cost savings or just?
It's just Overdrive is just letting it go. They're no longer supporting it. They put Libby in place. It's been a couple of years now, I think.
Yeah.
And they're just waiting for people to all transition. Now they're officially not supporting it any longer. So we will have flyers out at Circ and Reference announcing the change. They're out already, but we'll start really hitting marketing for that next month in April. And so there's some how-to guides and webinars on our website. Okay, in my report, I talked about the reciprocal lending agreement.
Yes.
Okay. So, our e-CAT committee, which is e-content committee, the e-content advisory committee through Upper Hudson, and we have representation through Catherine, our adult services, head of adult services. They have been able to facilitate, Judith from Upper Hudson and ECAC have facilitated the addition of 2 new networks. And there was a typo in my report. It said MVLS, which is Mohawk Valley Library System, but I typed Mid-Hudson Library System. That was an error. We had already had a reciprocal lending agreement with Mid-Hudson Library System. Now we've added Mohawk Valley Library System and Southern Adirondack Library System. So now between Upper Hudson, Mid-Hudson, Mohawk Valley, and Southern Adirondack, we have 4 library systems all sharing our e-materials right now. And so it's been great. It's a lot of stuff.
Southern Adirondack.
That's what you said.
There's 4, Southern Adirondack Library System, yep. And don't worry, only items without holds are available for outside the system, so it's not making it harder to get items, it's just making the collection grow in depth.
Yeah.
Which is really nice, really good.
Will there be an increased cost for that?
No, this is just a reciprocal agreement. I mean, there's always increased costs for digital materials because circulation is going up and we're trying to reduce hold time. But no cost for this, it's just
And this is all for digital.
Hmm?
This is all digital.
this is all digital through Overdrive.
Libby.
Libby,
Okay,
so
yeah.
so you will still
Overdrive is
see,
still
Libby is the app. You will still see on your invoices Overdrive, so just the confusion there. Libby is just the name of the app. Yes, it's one of those things that libraries struggle with, calling things, using terminology that everybody can understand. Ebooks.
That works.
How's that?
That works for me. In audiobook.
Ebooks, e-audiobooks, some slightly streaming video and.
So when does that take place?
So that will, the reciprocal lending agreement is gonna happen later this month. So they're working on it now. As soon as they can get it live, they will. They've already sent it to Overdrive, so now it's just logistics.
Do we have to approve anything with that, or is it just strictly through a participant?
That's through Upper Hudson.
Okay.
Yep. That's through Upper Hudson. Then exciting for programming at the library. Last month, we held 25 programs for adults with 776 people attending, 28 for children with 1,635 people attending. We have 5 drop-in story times a week, and we're getting between 55 and 60 people at every story time.
Wow.
So it's, we're getting back to normal here. 18 programs with 101 teams. Adult programming has been reaching capacity, which, way to go, Jody, she's doing some great work here, because that has not been something that historically we haven't reached capacity for adult programming. But we are, so we've started to implement some before COVID procedures now, where we have been requiring registration for adult programming, but we hadn't been welcoming people at the door, checking them off a list. We're starting to do that because we did have a program where we were over capacity in our meeting room, so we've started to put in some new protocols, new to some of the staff, but they're really old protocols that we've done before. So we also print out a list and we give it to our partner organizations. If we're co-sponsoring something and they're leading the event, we give them the list and they'll check people off. So you might remember a couple of years ago, before COVID, we had started asking, saying if anybody, especially the Friends, if anybody wanted to come in and welcome people, it's a great opportunity. And this is how we could use volunteers again, because it is typically it's someone on the reference desk going out there welcoming people, which means that the desk is empty for that time period. So, you do things like hand out the survey, say nice, thanks for coming, what's your name, that kind of thing. So you don't necessarily have to talk up in front of a large group. You don't have to be, on display. You can literally just check people off and welcome people, and it's a nice way to participate. Especially if you're going to be at the event anyways. If you just, let us know in advance, we can give you a job. Winter Reading Club. The theme this year was Passport to Adventure. 133 adults participated, including 18 staff, which was exciting. And 121 kids and teens. The most, everybody loved it. People are loving our reading programs, which is why we're not doing them just summer now, we're doing winter, spring, summer, fall. One of the displays for Winter Reading Club was the big map. If you went to the library, you saw a big map, and then there were pins. People could put in their pin in the different places that they visited. And we had anticipated, intended that to be just for reading club participants, but everybody loved that. So the team has talked about doing more participatory things like that. I loved the sticker puzzle that you had.
Oh, those are
I thought
great.
that was really fun.
yes.
And the kids can do it
Yep.
and adults can do it.
I thought that was really cute. I'll share that feedback too. So we're trying to do more things. We will probably be doing more things like that in the future. The youth team does that regularly with their scavenger hunts and different things in the children's program, children's room.
Looks like this, from your numbers, those scavenger hunts look like they're big hits.
They're
It's
huge
so
hits.
Those are fun.
Love
He
them.
tries to do it like every time he goes in there, he did it last time.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how many
People love them. I know.
Yeah, so.
And it's such a little thing, you wouldn't think, like, but, they just love going to look for stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cute.
And it's good because they're learning skills doing that too. They're not, it's not just fun. It's, they're learning to live on doing that. And it's a nice because you're not seeing a lot of kids just going off doing it on their own. They're interacting. So you see like a lot of fathers with their kids too at night because it's something when they're bringing their kids in. Moms, of course, and grandparents, of course, but even dads are doing it with their kids at night because they're like, oh, what are we gonna do? Oh, there's
Right.
the scavenger hunt. You wanna do the scavenger hunt?
Yeah.
So it's great. We've been trying to do more Saturday morning programming for working families because we've, gotten that feedback and we do have, one of our library assistants who's here, regularly, not every Saturday, but I think every other Saturday. She's been putting on some great programming. So our library assistant is working as a school librarian during the day. And then she comes here a couple nights a week and weekends and helps us. So she's great. That's Jessica. She does some great programming. We are having, just a heads up, we're having an after hours teen event. It's the first one we've done in a few years. So it's gonna be March 31st and it's called Out of the Box Game Night. It is, registration started on the 17th. Registration is handled solely by the youth services librarians, and that's because they want to have a direct contact with the family to ensure that they know the protocols and there's a permission slip and all kinds of things involved with that. So it's a get locked in the library after the library's closed for fun Friday night activity. So it's fun. I when my kids were younger, we did it and they did it and they loved it. Your kids have probably done it. They've done it.
Good. No, they've never done it.
Oh, they're gonna
I
love
signed
it.
up
It's so
for
fun.
it.
It's
So
fun.
what does it run, Monday hours?
Oh,
5:30
exactly
to
to 8. Is that what it is? 5:30 to 8,
Oh,
thank you.
okay.
It's,
It's not like till 1.
Yeah.
no. I mean, parents can go out to dinner, right?
Mhm.
During it.
Yeah,
A lot of places are doing like parent night out.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
do with the schools sometimes would do that, like, you drop your kid off at a certain time and for kids.
Basically set up games throughout the whole library. So they're teens, it's a lot of middle schoolers who are, overtaking the entire floor of the library and they're doing the different games. They get out big games, so the, checkers and the tic-tac-toe and all the big ones are fun and they get out puzzles and different games. They also have things like face painting and so the kids are doing it for each other and there's just a lot of great activities. I don't know exactly what their activities are. I'm sure they're gonna think of something new because they always do. But I've been to a few of
There's
them.
snacks
Really
available?
great. There's snacks,
snacks?
there's food.
Yeah, that's cute.
Is it dinner or just snacks? Just planning.
It's probably on the permission slip that I have here, but I can.
I'll look, don't worry.
Yeah, I don't know that off the top of my head,
Figure it out.
but I can find out for you. That's cute. But anything else? There's a lot of other stuff in my report.
Well, we do have to talk about the annual report that. we
Yes.
approved that. So that was part of the packet you received, and we received it, yes.
It's a
But she
long
told us not to.
report. You don't have to print it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's really nothing for you to really.
It's really a lot of statistics.
It's a lot of statistics
Yeah.
that we have to do every year. There's one, there's
question number 1.12, the ending of the local
I got the first
fiscal
page.
year, there's a typo there, so that needs to change, so I'll have to go back to them. It's already been submitted. It was already submitted to Upper Hudson, they reviewed it, and then it gets submitted to the state. So it's already been submitted. It's been through several reviews, Mary, and Eagle Eye Mary.
Oh my God. How does she see these?
She sees everything. It's wonderful. So I'll submit that, I'll update that. There was another weird one on there too, that like one of the columns for the previous year didn't show a total, but that is just a system flaw. I don't know what that is.
And these are the figures that Upper Hudson uses when they create their UHLAN agreement,
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will take a motion, we have a motion to approve, accept that report. To annual report to the New York State Department of Library
It's
Development.
actually Division of Library.
I was gonna say it's, because it's the New York State Education Department.
Yeah, it's the education department, it's the Division of Library Development. That's the type.
That, I mean,
Department of Education, Division of Library Development.
somebody wish to make such a motion. Mary and the second, Charlie. Any other questions for Jill about that report? All those in favor of accepting it? It has been submitted. Any opposed? No. It's accepted. Anything else, Jill?
I guess the only other thing that I'll just draw attention to, it is in my report, but it will impact next month. Things will look different. We have we're now in QuickBooks Online, so we're working through QuickBooks Online, so reporting will look different. A little learning curve for everyone right now. Patient with us.
Okay.
But I do have, so I did yesterday and today, re-reconciled everything, so I have those for you. So we had already reconciled February in QuickBooks Desktop, and I wanted to make sure, because there were a few days after it was transferred that it wasn't in online, so I wanted to make sure everything was in there, so we re-reconciled it in online, and we're good. So,
That makes me very
it's not, I will say, we're not happy with it. But we're doing it, but we're doing it,
It doesn't do everything.
it doesn't do everything, and some things are more tedious. Anytime you move from any desktop version to an online version, it's just a little slower. I mean, think Teams, you know, how much do you love Teams? It's the same kind of thing. So give Dawn lots of,
Right?
tell Dawn thank you when you see her.
Poor Dawn.
Yeah, Dawn is, poor Dawn.
Mm.
She's lovely, she's wonderful, and she's rolling with the punches, but it's until we really work out some of the, you know, there's workarounds for things, there's different ways you can make things a little quicker, but we're gonna have to learn all of those, and so in the beginning, it's just gonna be slower.
Well, have a nice month next.
Thanks.
Sure will. So,
Clear your schedule.
looking forward to.
All right,
I'm
anything
sure
else,
they're
Jill?
fine. Nope.
Under old business, did anyone go to NILA Advocacy Day?
I was out of town during Advocacy Day. Julian will probably talk about.
There was a snowstorm, so
Yeah.
we faxed our letters in that day.
Yeah.
We didn't have any members actually go.
I
We had like
can expound, I was gonna wait for my,
We'll wait.
we'll wait.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I had on old business, you're setting up a meeting with the.
Yeah, I actually reached out yesterday. But I haven't heard back. Well, I don't expect.
So
Necessarily.
Jill and Michael and I are planning to meet with.
who is joining us on our community advisory committee, so that's wonderful.
You don't get a hold of Larry, no, we're.
Right, we know 3 times, well, once, sure.
We've got, so I think I put it in, I updated my report in the updated report, the second version of my director's report, who's on the community advisory committee. Because the community advisory committee is the group in strategic planning that will be recommending the goals for the strategic plan. So it's a pretty important group, and I'll tell you who's on the committee in addition to Tom.
And it's on there.
Tom and Ed. Yeah.
Is it in your report?
Yeah.
No.
So Tom, representing the county legislature. Yeah, I updated it in my report.
I thought I read it.
On the new one.
Oh,
Updated the
I
list.
saw that somewhere.
Chuck,
Board or.
yeah, so Chuck, the Skodak town supervisor, Jeff, the East Greenbush superintendent, which by the way, well, I'll tell you something else afterwards. Shay, so he's representing, I didn't even put that he was formerly a board member, because did you know that he's co-chair of the literacy volunteers in Hudson County? Yes, so he's representing the literacy volunteers. And I did find where he works, he's CEO of Freeform Fibers. I've always wondered when he's told me what he did, but I didn't understand it now. It's nuclear something. It's
Trying to understand.
He would be able to, communicate with my husband too.
What does that have to do with?
I don't know. Elaine Radzinski, the chief of police, is going to be on our committee. Nicole Crisanda, who is a former Green Meadow PTO president, and so she's a parent, which will be great. We have Mary Pat Donnelly, our district attorney. Chris Horn, who's the president of Junior Achievement for Northeastern New York. Kelly Aldinger, I believe, she may not be able to attend the first meeting. So she's from the school district, from the E&L department. But there was an email that went out to everybody in the department asking if they could send a representative. And so she jumped on, but we may have, I'm not sure if we'll stick, she'll be able to stick with it or not. Ed, representing the town of East Greenbush. Jake Ashby, representing the 43rd District Senate. And Jim Church, Director of Strategic Initiatives for BOCES, Questar. So we've got a great group. And then we've got our work group, which is the workhorse group. Thank you to those of you sitting around this table. That's going to be Lynn and Mary and Julianne, along with myself, Molly, Catherine, and Marion. So that group will meet 6 times with work in between. So the community advisory group doesn't have any work in between, but the work group will have work in between. So bow down, thank you very much to this group. Very important. And then of course the board, you guys are going to participate in the focus group for the board and the Friends board. But also at the very end, you will ultimately be the ones to decide yay or nay to the strategic plan, to adopt the strategic plan. And so the new timeline for the plan has it really being completed June, July, but we won't meet to approve until September. So we're looking at our September committee meetings to have the presentation from our consultants. And then we'll probably vote at the September board meeting, which happens to be the same night as our election. The good news is that typically, Maxine said that typically the first year of the plan doesn't have a financial impact. So I know we felt really strongly like we needed to be, partway through the plan, so we had an idea of the financial impact, but usually it's year 2 that has financial impact. So that's good, so we can rest with that. And it helps us because there's just so much going on at the end of the year with summer reading and teachers and the end of the school year. And so trying to cram it all in. I'm glad we're not doing that. So it's gonna be good. It's good. And I think there may be some silver linings in this, which is good. There's one committee meeting that we're gonna need to, we'll likely need to cancel, and that's in June. There's a staff component, and so I think we'll hold our staff meeting that night because we're closed on Mondays at 6, so it'll be an easy way to get everybody, hopefully, to potentially attend. Sorry, there's a big,
Is it a bat?
no, it's like a bee or a wasp. Sorry, distracted.
June 5th is when the.
So I think we're probably gonna cancel that meeting and not hold a committee meeting that month, but if we need to, we will reschedule it. We still right now do not have any meetings in August for the board. And right now, do we have a July? We do have a July meeting. Do you have a July committee meeting? Yeah.
That is July,
So,
so it's not a great date. I would think it's a Monday, July 3rd, which means the long July 4th weekend is interrupted by
Right.
committee meetings.
so we might decide to not have a committee meeting in July, depending on what's happening and what we're working on. We can decide that later.
Anything, I don't think there's any other old businesses there. Go to some liaison reports. Leanne.
So Advocacy Day, it was a patron who suggested we have a signing day in the lobby, and that worked out really, really well. I'm sorry, I don't have the right number, but I have 127 down.
I think it was yeah, it's in my report.
127. Letters were signed, and then we wound up, Susan wound up faxing them, or scanning them all in, and we wound up faxing them because of the weather. And Burton was gonna bring them down, but with the weather, we go that day. So we did get a lot of letters in, and then with the scanning, we actually sent the consultants as well, so we there's a section that you could fill in some comments, so that I have to work with. So that was great, and I think that's something we'll continue going forward, because it's such a great, easy thing, the volunteers were happy doing it. It's really a chance to be involved, which we don't normally get that, so I thought that was a great turnout, and that's something we'll keep going forward. There's going to be an Easter egg hunt, talking about scavenger hunts. We're going to redo the Easter egg hunt that we did last year. This is with the Friends, the Library, Kiwanis, and the Y as the main partners. And it'll kick off with the town. But this year it'll be after Easter, so it's a little weird. But there'll be wooden eggs around town that people check off the box and they form and drop off their form at the library. So they get prizes, which include free books for the kids. And Easter baskets, which kids after Easter, so. But it's a nice way to combine a lot of different entities together as a community event, so. Good thing.
Even if you don't celebrate Easter, still spring.
Yeah.
Eggs.
So I was hoping they might alter the prices a little bit. We're working on it. In case you haven't noticed, there's a book sale coming up. So we are in really good shape with our volunteers, we're going to check their inventory, so we're actually and we do still have maintenance, so our costs are definitely low. We will figure out how we're gonna do their talent and have something set up for Monday. Our membership campaign is pretty much done. This is the only form that's not in right now. We've raised $7,850. If you do this, $7,860. We had 290 members renew. The biggest number being the seniors, 127 were seniors, and then followed by households. We had one student. So going forward, we are going to revamp all our categories. The checks ranged, you got a lot of people who just did their $10 and that was it, up to $500. So such a huge range, and I think people, when they look at this form, they look at it as like a bill. Okay, it's $10, I'll pay $10, and a lot of people don't even occur to them to put more in, even though there's a line for additional donations. So we hope to increase that next year. We're going to do in October a new member campaign and really try to recruit, because this was just a renewal. This really, I think we had one new member. So this really wasn't getting to the new population, which we really want to get to a whole bunch of new members. So October will be a kickoff for the new member campaign. And it'll also have new tiers. We're going to get rid of any demographic reference. It goes kind of literary, fund references, but encouraging people to do higher amounts. I think they would have if it had even occurred to them. And we can look at their history now in Keela and see what they've donated. And some people have spent $10 for the last, 20 years. And I think that they would have given more, even $20, if they just even occurred to them. So I think people have been super generous, seeing a lot of great donations, so, hopefully we can encourage that, get some more money. So as far as the trend, we are seeing, at the library, we're picking back up, we're not pre-positioned pandemic, but we're better than last year, so we're slowly getting back up to where we want to be.
Are you thinking this year you will do an end of year, when they do that Giving Tuesday thing?
We talked about it, we didn't bring in a lot of money in previous years, there's no real tax benefit anymore, the way things go, and that's kind of was the reasoning for it. So we'll probably try it, it doesn't hurt, I don't think we'll do a paper.
Yeah, I mean, there's no tax benefit, but just bring in like $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah.
Just for not too much work, so. Checks.
Yeah, so we have to look at the October and then see,
Yeah.
probably try to do something, but it'll probably be electronic, to save them the cost of that.
Mhm.
So that is where we're at. Any questions?
Okay, then we've got the town, I guess. Don't have a town.
They had a training tonight.
I knew we had
Manager,
something.
I thought he'd be able to come late, but.
So no report, but, Tom.
I'll use the time for the town. Just as an aside, I follow the library Facebook page. Whoever is doing that, has got a tremendous sense of humor.
Yes, very
That's
clever.
Selena, you know who sets up our.
No, I don't know.
Great.
Who is it?
Selena.
Could you pass it along? I mean, I just
there's-
enjoy it, yeah. just, just-
There's several people
Yes.
who are.
But whoever's doing it, some of the little,
Yeah.
it's very,
Yes, I agree, I
Yeah,
agree.
pretty cool stuff. County executive had the state of the county last week. County's, I don't know, but it's doing really well. I mean, I'd love to take credit for it, but it seems to be operating at a very high level. Sales tax revenue is still going through the roof. Roads are being taken care of. The county building now is in East Greenbush. DMV is pretty much, they're having a ribbon cutting on Thursday at 11 o'clock. If you're in the area, stop by. They're gonna have everything. What they don't have right now is waiting on the state, is the real ID and the enhanced licensing, but they're gonna have that. So I mean, it's gonna be one-stop shopping, no appointments, you just go in. It's really state of the art. For those of us who've been used to going to Troy, this is gonna be a real shocker. I mean, you go right in on the first floor, you go in, you look to the left, it's right there. It's just a wonderful thing. It's so I mean, it's just a nice thing to have. And the office building itself, just in my opinion, I mean, that indicates to me that really East Greenbush is the de facto county seat. My friends from Troy don't think so, and Troy is the official county seat, but you're having everything coming over here. East Greenbush is very important, and I think it's gonna have a synergistic effect on the town and attracting businesses, particularly the 9 and 20. Parking's incredible. It's really unbelievable. Yeah. It's a huge, the parking lot is so big, the people at lunch now take their time to walk around the parking lot for exercise. It's
So we're gonna
really-
get a bus line?
Yeah.
Well, you see, here's the thing, I think we talked about that before. When I was with the town, we always tried to get
Yeah.
thank you, all these things. To do it, and they said it's always flat statistics. If it makes a certain level of ridership potential, they'll do it. I think we're gonna be pretty close to it right now, once we get a few months under our belt.
Well, and with
Regeneron right there.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you link it to the routes that are on 9 and 20 and the ones already on Route 4.
Yep, oh, absolutely, it makes sense.
All you have to do is you're gonna pick up that Amazon ridership, you're gonna pick up the people working in Target and Walmart.
I agree, it's gonna be fantastic, I think, for them
Here, I
too.
wanted them to do that, because that's where I live.
Yeah, oh, I'd love to see it happen too. I mean, you take a trip into Troy instead of worrying about driving, if you're gonna have a night out for dinner in Troy, I mean, a nice. But they have always told us that it's just an algorithm, you punch it in. And now I think once we get a few months under our belt with the county and with Regeneron, I think it's just gonna be a matter of course for them. But I'm not speaking officially, it's just,
Fingers crossed.
hopeful, yeah. And that would be wonderful, your point's well taken, it's gonna link, I would hope, the 9 and 20, it's gonna be
The
fantastic.
9 and 20 basically exploded once Amazon, because I used to take that years ago, and it only ran 9 to 5.
Mhm.
And it stopped running, and the last one would be at 6 o'clock. I would have to time it exactly
Yeah.
right
Oh my gosh.
to get from Colony Center to my apartment in East Greenbush.
Yeah.
And if you miss that but now it runs it's not 24 hours, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, there is increasing ridership on what they've got, increasing the routes, but I think the natural, again, I'm not speaking for them, but the natural thing is to have it on Route 4 as well. That's, I
It's already
think
on the other half of Route 4, that's
it's
what.
getting there, it's creeping up, it's getting there. And people now, like regular riders, my understanding, are contacting them and saying, hey, look, just go a little bit more, get us to, so I think it's gonna be a matter of course, I don't wanna speak for them, I don't want the economy is for them, but just seems to make sense. That's all I got.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Amy, can you tell us about Upper Hudson?
Yes, just a
Advocacy
couple.
Day.
Yes. Well, we really don't have that much in the report, but I just will say that Tim did go to Advocacy Day with Evelyn Greenstein, who is the trustee from the Troy Library. And they handed out these cards. I could leave one here, just, this was their kind of promotional informational material for the legislators. I don't think they met a lot. I think it was a lot of staff, but just a couple things that are interesting for the whole Upper Hudson library system, 2022. So the ULON number, the ULON monies that we pay that just went up, okay. 8,000 items are delivered a day to all 36 member libraries. 2,449,000 physical checkouts. So 39% increase from 2021. 800,000 digital checkouts. So that's magazines, music, movies, TV shows through Overdrive and Hoopla. 13,000 new library cards issued. So it's a 56% increase over 2021. So there are 13,000 new card holders in 2022 and 1,600,000 items available for loan. So anyone with a card can choose over 1 million items to check out, both digital and physical. So this was their, they wanted, it was unfortunate that it was the snowstorm because, Tim was all like, just such an advocate for libraries and he's just so proud and, it was just a little disappointing that it was a snowstorm and there was like no one there except for staff and, it's just didn't have his group with him and everything. But we had a little presentation from the treasurer and, Upper Hudson's doing really well. They did accept the resignation of Ann Pitlick, who was the system support associate. So, and they did post her job. I'm not sure if they hired anyone or I'm not sure where that lands, but that was a disappointment as well. She was going somewhere else, but they're very excited about the expedition. They're putting together, and I'll have more information when it comes out, an adult spelling bee. Ooh. I know, that's everyone was like, ooh. So I'm not sure where, when, or what, but that's coming out.
I know you don't know, like teams, like I'm already.
I think yes, the teams anyway. The teams. I think they mentioned the teams, not the solos. Me standing there trying to spell something.
Okay.
But I'll keep you posted. All right. Another thing.
You and Mary as a team, Lynn, you're all set.
Oh my gosh.
Is there prizes?
And when you say adult, is it adult beverages or is it?
Exactly.
Adult age.
I think adult, you're right. But that's it. It's all good, it's all good.
Okay, for new business, did anyone have, I know Amanda, you've got the one item, anybody else have anything under new business? And one thing, I just wanted to remind people that there's a trustee book club on April 18th, which I think is, it's sadly, like this year, they're always on our board meeting nights, but it's from 5 to 6:30, so you could get here. It's virtual and it's on the board director relationship, which.
Oh, I'm doing that. I signed up for that.
Good,
Yeah,
because
that's-
I know the Friends meeting is also that night, but
Yes,
I just let you know, they're really good trainings.
They are.
And you can even listen to them another time. If you register, you'll get the link. And I've done that a couple of times. And they're really good.
Can we attend, like if we have our computer here, we'd be able to attend from here with the,
Yeah, we'll just have to reserve the room.
yeah.
That could be, or bring headphones.
Well, because I'm gonna be going to the Friends.
No, I'm doing the Friends. this month.
Let's not fight about it, ladies. Ladies, we're gonna probably take it outside.
Mary was last time. They only meet every other month.
Oh, see, there it is. Oh. But in any case, so that's coming up and, our next meeting is scheduled for April 18th. Is that
At the back of the agenda, you have meetings coming up,
You
right?
said that you can't make it.
Yeah, we're gonna be in California.
Oh, that's
Oh, now you're bragging.
Nice.
But I'm just, I haven't gone into anywhere
Only
since
kidding.
2014, come on. Well, I want to do the minutes, good.
Yeah, I just what it was like, if I don't, like, if I can be excused or if we can't change the time, that's fine.
I mean, I think.
Try to dial
we
in
should-
if I can
if It's
remove
okay. we should be excused. Don't even, yeah, it's something, but yes. Please excuse you, or don't think that there will be a forum issue. Mary's generously offered to take minutes. Anything else? Now I will entertain tonight's favorite motion. Ready? Okay, Charlie. We have a motion to adjourn and Tammy.
All right.
I don't think we even need to take a vote.
I know, we don't.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Melissa Gavel. Oh, she's so